Hello, BookTube. I've got a brand new BookTube event to announce to you today. It was the brainchild of our very own M, otherwise known as Mark at Book Time with Elvis. It is Dr. November, and it is a BookTube event dedicated to espionage literature. Fiction or nonfiction, but I think we can all agree that the best stuff is in the fiction realm here. We are setting this event is co-hosted by it's Mark at Book Time with Elvis. It's Randy, the literate Texan. It's Greg at Another Bibliophile Reads, and it's yours truly. And we are talking about spy fiction, spy literature, fiction or nonfiction, for the whole of the month of November. And we are setting a time frame here that is basically after the Russian revolutions and before and at the fall of the Berlin Wall, I guess, would be something like that. So basically, if the Soviet Union exists and is the antagonist in the book, or even if it does, even if it isn't the antagonist, you might, for all I know, be dealing with French espionage. But if the Soviet Union exists, the lifetime of the Soviet Union is our playground here. Then it counts. And it can be anything, really. I mean, there are all sorts of great spy nonfiction works. But I think we can agree that the palm goes here to fiction, where there are towering masterpieces. One of which will be our group read. I think there's a Discord. I don't know if there'll be a Voxer group, but I think there's a Discord for our group read, which is a signpost spy novel, The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, by John le Carré, who very well may be the greatest espionage author of them all. This is terrific. I don't know how many times I've read it, but it is absolutely terrific. If you haven't read it, especially if you haven't read Carré at all, you ought to give it a try. And I don't know the details. I'll look up Mark's video. I'm sure he's made an introduction video by now. And if there's a Discord, I don't do Discord because I found it to be unbelievably sticky. You get into the ecosystem of Discord and you can't get out of it. It wants to send you notifications. It wants to involve you in a million things. It's got a million brainless shining lights and flashing bulbs all over it. So as a cranky old man, I haven't acclimated myself to Discord yet. So I don't know that I'll be in the Discord, but a lot of people probably will be. This is a fun subject, and as far as I know, there is no dedicated BookTube event to espionage literature of any kind. With no other prompts other than that, I would love to know what you plan, if you plan to add something. At the very least, I would strongly urge you to add The Spy Who Came In From the Cold to your November reading, especially if you haven't read this author. You're going to love it. And when you do, there's a lot more to read. There's a lot of other Le Carré. I'm not sure what I will be reading for November. I actually did a quick cursory check of new releases, which is my bailiwick. That's largely where I spend my reading time. I didn't see anything that really jumped out at me from the major houses in America that fits the bill. But I didn't look exhaustively. There may be plenty of that out there. So if there isn't plenty of that out there, I don't see how I'm going to resist doing a lot of John le Carré rereading. I don't know how I will be able to do that. Not just this book, but lots of others. He's most famous, of course, for Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy, and I'm up for a reread of that. I haven't done that in a while. He's a rereadable author. Very much so. I wish that I had more professional interaction with him than I did. I wish that were true. I wrote a review of his last book that was not positive. It couldn't be positive. And that wasn't under my own name. And I wrote a review of the latest book to have his name on it, Silverview, which I don't believe was his at all. But his son, in the preface to the book, says that it was. His son says that this was the book that his father simply could not finish, that he kept going back to it and tinkering with it while he was doing other things, the major stuff that was coming off his pen and paying the mortgage. And that after his father's death, the son found this manuscript virtually in complete form in the stereotypical desk drawer, which is doing stand-in duty for Dr. Watson's tin dispatch box, I guess. I have always sneered at the idea that an author with a multi-million-dollar literary estate would just have a finished book lying around and you wouldn't get to it for years. You wouldn't discover it for years. I've always scoffed at that idea. I openly mocked it, I think, in the Washington Post when Michael Crichton's literary estate tried to do it. I've done it a number of times. I don't like that as a gimmick, and I don't like necrofiction where people just keep writing books with the author's name on it. I mean, there's a new book coming out from Wilbur Smith, and the publisher's publicity material is saying this is the latest book in the author's long-running and beloved series of novels set in ancient Egypt. And it says Wilbur Smith with so-and-so. I don't remember the co-author's name. But the point is, it isn't the co-author's name. The co-author is not with. Wilbur Smith didn't write it with this author. Wilbur Smith was dead and buried in his grave when the first idea of this book was thought up by not the co-writer, but the sole author. So, we found this Michael Crichton novel in a box in the shed. It doesn't seem to me to be much better than necrofiction that's just explicitly continuing the author's literary career long after they're dead, when they have stopped composing and started decomposing. I don't know that I don't like either one of them. And so I initially scoffed at Silverview. And I do scoff at the Sun saying that he barely had to touch the book, that he barely had to touch the manuscript. I don't anymore scoff at the idea that the manuscript did exist, because I have one of those books. And I think all writers do. I have one of those books that simply will not finish. I simply am never happy with it. So I keep going back and picking and pecking at it. I do it almost every month, and I have for years. So it's possible that John le Carré had such a book. The point I'm trying to make is that it seems a little unbelievable that whether it was finished or not, whether he was ever happy with it or not, it seems a little unbelievable to me that the literary estate would let a very valuable property just sit there because he was never happy with it. I always have a question mark about that. But at least I got to attach my name to his name on a book at some point. If there are subsequent John le Carré books, I certainly will not be reviewing them. I will be condemning them, but I won't be reviewing them. But there's no doubt at all about this. The Spy Who Came In From the Cold is vintage John le Carré. So I hope you'll join us. You double and triple agents, I hope you'll join us for Dr. November, another BookTube event to join the swelling roster of BookTube events in November. I will try to leave a link to announcement videos as they're coming up. I bet Mark has an announcement video already. And, it will be fun, especially, again, if you haven't read John le Carré, our signature author, our group read author. Oh my God, you are missing such a treat if you haven't read this author. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up for now, put it on your calendar, and I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.